FCU Forum proposed prices support policy as one of the main files for appreciation to Prime Minister Abdelmalek Sellal. In a press conference in the presence of the Minister of National Education Ben Ghabrit, an assessment was made about the most important recommendations that emerged from this week's Education System Reform Implementation Seminar, mainly baccalaureate exams. Residents and activists from across Lebanon have protested in Beirut's downtown district against the government's perceived failure to address a mounting waste management crisis. Hello ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Dzair News Live and welcome to this English news edition. First in our news file, the Minister of State, Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation Ramtan Lamamra arrived Monday afternoon in Niamey, Niger at the invitation of his Niger counterpart Kani Aishatu Bolama. During this two-day visit, Mr. Lamamra will hand over a message from the President of the Republic Abdelaziz Bouteflika to his Niger counterpart Mahamadou Issoufou, following talks between the two heads of state have had on the occasion of President Issoufou's state visit to Algeria last January. From the main files proposed by the FCU Forum to the Prime Minister was prices support policy. The Forum proposed a selective policy in the orientation of the government's social support and demanding a semi-dome structure for the beneficiaries from social support funding. Usama Snoussi.
The orientation of support policy towards poor and limited income families is one of the FCE's most important files in its list of propositions to the Prime Minister through the recognition of a semi-dome structure to the benefiters from the government's social support funding as an effective procedure in the Treasury's social transition.
Est-ce que vous trouvez normal que
Do you find it really normal that a litre of fuel costs 13 dinars while at the same time in Tunisia or Morocco it costs 10 times more? We need to revise our position. We need to help this government to impose the real market cost. Later on, we must find and target the most vulnerable segments of the population with help of local municipalities and local associations. All Algerians must be able to live with honor.
It's not possible for the Algerian citizen to equalize with tourists in benefiting from social support, an equation that required review and amendment within a successful economic selective policy.
Est-ce que c'est normal qu'un touriste
Is it normal that tourists who would come to Algeria get subsidized? It's not fair, and if we continue like this, we'll have a big problem because of all incomes today are divided into two. We said it and we will repeat it again. As businessmen, we are fully proud that we belong to a country that prefers the social aspect. Supporting doesn't mean wasting, but we should support those who are in real need.
The official adoption of this equation will enable the Algerian government to save 400 billion dinars annually from social transition, which will provide 100,000 university students with stable jobs.
Supporting households and families, we dispense of all this waste and all this illicit traffic, and it's fairer because we calculated the real cost will be 400 billion dinars instead of 1,700.
The social support policy has brought peace and stability to the government through the previous years, and today it has turned into a parallel line with the decline of oil prices, and the government today is facing a non-optional inevitability and the requirement of a selective policy for social support as a solution that would get Algeria out of the oil prices shock.
At a press conference held here in Algiers in the presence of the Minister of National Education Ben Ghabrit, an overall assessment was made about the most important recommendations that emerged from this week's Education System Reform Implementation Seminar with on focus the baccalaureate exams. Hence, Minaras.
New reforms to the baccalaureate exam as well as fifth-year final exams were the main topics discussed at the conference held by the Minister of Education Nouria Ben Ghabrit yesterday and the day before, with the participation of experts, university professors, education unionists, and representatives of civil society. The baccalaureate exam will witness several changes in a short-term period. The main issue discussed at the conference is to raise the level of baccalaureate as well as give it more credibility. The recommendations also included the establishment of a short recommendation BA term, strongly urged by Prime Minister Abdelmalek Salal during the first day of the conference. Moreover, the exam's duration, considered too long and stressful, will likely be reviewed and reorganized. However, unionists oppose the implementation of these reforms in the short-term period.
The recommendations are rich but require more discussion with additional contributions from experts in the field, including educators and counselors. At that time only, we'll initiate the appropriate reforms.
أظن لو تكون هناك إرادة فعلية
استيادة عن الدول الوطنية أولاً فيما يخص البكالوريا.
Reforms concerning the baccalaureate is only a draft from Education Union's perspective. It is not possible to apply them the next year or the one after. A study is needed to see if the method for the baccalaureate exam of both parties is applicable or not. With the removal of secondary materials in the second-year baccalaureate, the student is likely to regress, especially with the neglect of secondary subjects.
As for primary school final examinations, it will probably be replaced by a single evaluation system to determine the level and abilities of each pupil after 5 years of study. The latest decisions will be issued today during the meeting scheduled by the Minister of National Education at the headquarters of the ministry.
In economy-linked news, the Bank of Algeria is poised to establish a fresh credit rating system to prop up the return in the course of the year 2015 of consumer credit for locally produced goods. Mohamed Baraswan.
The Bank of Algeria is to set up a mutual-weighted credit rating system to shore up the restoration in the course of 2015 of consumer credit for Algerian-produced goods. Finance Minister Abdelrahman bin Khalfa told media outlets that the credit rating system is almost ready, adding that it doesn't have to be operational on the first day, but it is essential that it is in the months of 2015 to be able to control debt. The reintroduction of consumer credit has been established by the Finance Act 2015. Mr. Ben Khalfa said this operation, although beneficial to the national economy, is rather intricate to implement because credit is only available to purchase goods produced here in Algeria. He explained that banks are waiting for a regulatory mechanism to pinpoint the list of products that can be financed by consumer credit. The Algerian government has decided to abolish consumer credit in 2009 after the country was hit by the adverse effects of the global economic crisis.
Moving on to world news, residents and activists from across Lebanon have protested in Beirut's downtown district against the government's perceived failure to address a mountain waste management crisis. Garbage has been collecting on the streets of the Lebanese capital following the closure of the main landfill a week ago. Karim Fazzakri.
One of the most beautiful capitals in the Arab world, Beirut, is being buried under its own waste. For the past weeks, garbage has piled up as Lebanon struggles to address its burning question of what to do with this garbage. Its parliamentary representative, Mohammed Kabani, explains from his home, people have had enough.
Everybody is angry. I mean, how can anybody be happy when there is garbage on the streets? What with the smells, with the pollution, with the health risks and so on.
The crisis was triggered because of events south of the capital. Opened in 1997, the main landfill, the Namia, now holds 5 times its own capacity. Its closure has been pushed back repeatedly due to a failure to find new dumping sites. But residents have blockaded the entrance to ensure an agreement to shut it last Friday wasn't forced. Having set up camps, they remained there. Residents in Nami are fed up living next to the site in the mountains southeast of the city, the endpoint for waste produced by around half of Lebanon's 4 million citizens.
What we are working for here, no landfills, no dump sites, no incinerators. The 3R is the only solution we are for: reduce, reuse, and recycle.
already prepared for angry scenes parliamentaries driven by conflicts and division and have been unable to agree on where to dump the capital's rubbish. Since the landfill closure, the main waste management company Suck Clean stopped collecting rubbish, saying it had no place to dispose the garbage. In the meantime, as the hunt continues to find new dumping spots, local authorities have been told to take methods with their own hands. The stench of uncollected refuse in the streets of Beirut is a stark reminder of the crisis of government afflicting Lebanon, as one of the residents interprets the situation.
Living in this country is to ignore what's bad and look at what's nice. And so you can ignore to a certain point, and then at some point it gets stinky like this, and you can't ignore it.
All these problems will require government action, which seems unlikely in the short term, as the parliament and cabinet both remain politically paralyzed and the presidency left vacant for over a year. How long residents will tolerate the situation?
Turkey has kept up its air attacks against ISIL extremists in Syria and launched a new wave of strikes against Kurdish insurgent camps in Iraq. Ankara has also called for a special NATO meeting on Tuesday to discuss its pressing security concerns. Camera Zachary again.
Turkey has kept up its air attacks against ISIL militants in Syria and launched a new wave of strikes against Kurdish insurgent camps in Iraq. Ankara has also called for a special NATO meeting on Tuesday to discuss its security concerns. On Sunday, Turkish troops set up checkpoints in the southeast of the country following a car bombing of a military vehicle in which 2 Turkish soldiers were killed and 4 others were wounded. Kurdish PKK rebels are thought to have been responsible for the roadside attack. Turkey's simultaneous targeting of ISIL and the PKK is said by Ankara to be part of a campaign that will help create safe zones against extremists. But residents in northern Iraq, where the rebel camps of the PKK are located, have expressed concern. Yesterday at about 11 p.m., Turkish fighters' jets came and hit our village with 10 rockets. We and our children were really scared. They even bombed our water supply. The lapse into serious conflict between Turkey and the PKK has raised doubts about the future of peace efforts with Turkey's own Kurdish foes that started in 2012 after 28 years of bloodshed, but which have recently stalled.
In tourism-related news, over 1 billion people travel to another country each year. This is according to the latest annual data issued by the World Tourism Organization. This kind of list is usually pretty much the same, but every now and then a new entry or drop in popularity makes for a surprise. Mustafa Azuk.
According to the latest annual data released by the World Tourism Organization, over 1 billion people travel to another country each year. This kind of list is usually pretty much the same, but every now and then a new entry or drop in popularity makes for a surprise. Attracting a whopping 83 million visitors each year. It seems that tourists around the world find it difficult to resist the charms of France, nicknamed the City of Light. Paris is exceptionally popular with tourists from the Americas and Asia, thanks to places like the Eiffel Tower, Louvre Museum, and Notre Dame Cathedral. Sitting into a distant second-place position on the list of most visited countries is the United States. Interestingly, while it attracts 16 million fewer visitors per year than France, long-haul tourists from Europe and Asia come to see America's vast landscapes and famous cities. The Grand Canyon, New York, San Francisco, and Yellowstone National are the favorites. Like France, most of Spain's visitors come from other EU countries, though it's just a fraction of the size of China. it attracts around the same number of tourists each year. The country's immaculate southern coastline is popular with sun-seekers from cooler climates and north from May to October. For culture vultures, the Spanish cities of Barcelona, Madrid and Sevilla offer plenty to see and do throughout the year. All these whopping numbers and figures might drive you to think, where is Algeria in all this? Well, unfortunately, the tourism in Algeria is very humble in comparison, despite the fact that after the turmoil that many Arab countries are living, Algeria was not chosen as a tourist holiday destination. Algeria was ranked number 5 most visited place in Africa, with 2 million visitors each year, a very humble number to what Algeria has and what it can offer to its beloved visitors. The capital, Algiers, is one of the Maghreb's most urban and charismatic city, with a heady, nostalgic mix of colonial and modern architecture. Across the north are stunning coastlines, lush rural hinterland, and a number of well-preserved Roman cities. Algeria's trump card is, though, its extraordinary Saharan region. Whether it's a glimpse of the sand seas that surround Timimoun or a plunge headlong into the far south of Tamarast, these are the desert landscapes of dreams and legend. Perhaps best of all, Algerians welcome visitors with warmth and a genuine curiosity. For accessible adventure and a complex, enthralling cultural odyssey, head for Algeria now.
On a more light-hearted note, the biggest tournament in video game history kicked off on Sunday in Seattle in the United States. The crowd-funded prize pool of these tournaments is currently set at $17.5 million US, with the figure continuing to rise. Amin Mustawa.
He's not going to be back in the base. He's got BKB, but no boots of travel.
The International 5, a gaming tournament for the popular video game Dota 2, kicked off yesterday in Seattle in northwestern United States. Dota 2 is a multiplayer online battle arena for the PC in which 2 teams of 5 players are pitted against each other in a highly competitive environment.
In jeopardy! There's a glyph! It's going to be their last stand!
It should be Zoe. They're going to cut for the shorter path. They storm up the river. Patience from Zoe. Waiting in the wings. Navi's about to be caught. Oh, there's the sleep. The surge. He catches everyone. Oh, this could be a total disaster. Vacuum in. Ravage on everyone. The black hole as well. Light of heaven turns it around. Ravage as well. Stolen by Deadly. Are you kidding me? They turn it around. 4 heroes dead.
5 heroes dead. Chuan trying to survive. Chuan's going to go down. Puppy talked about the Naga counter. It's Light of Heaven with his BKB. They turn it around. I don't even know how they're going to do it. Standing ovation from the crowd. The last tower will be going down. And I think they sense blood in the water. They'll keep going. 10-3 is the score right now. No turning back. Boards are coming off cooldown in just 11 seconds.
The International 5, hosted by the game's developer Valve, has the particularity of having the largest prize pool in video game history, beating the record held by the previous edition of the contest, which took place last year. The pool was partially crowdfunded by the game's legion of fans, allowing it to reach the astronomical figure of some $17.5 million, with the team winning the tournament receiving $6.3 million, making each of the 5 players an instant millionaire. The large prize pool surpasses that of prestigious events such as the World Series of Poker and the 2015 edition of the Golf Masters. 14 out of the 16 teams slated to compete for the trophy were already known heading into the tournament, having either been directly invited by Valve for their performances over the past year or having won regional qualifiers. Yesterday's games were played amongst 4 teams to decide who will be filling in the last 2 available slots. Chinese team CDEC and Korean team MVP Phoenix triumphed over American team Archon and Russian team Vega Squadron. The game's group stages start today at 5 p.m. Algeria time, with all of the games being watchable for free online through YouTube streaming. The event's main stage elimination phase will begin on the 3rd of August in front of a sold-out Key Arena Stadium in Seattle. with tournaments for games such as Dota 2, League of Legends, and Counter-Strike Global Offensive filling up stadiums worldwide. It would certainly seem that the phenomenon of esports is here to stay.
Fragments of the Holy Quran dating back more than 1,300 years have been discovered at the University of Birmingham, UK. These texts, which could have been written by someone who knew the noble prophet Muhammad, God's peace and blessings be upon him, are greatly fascinating researchers. Karim Fazakri.
Interested in an old manuscript which was covered by dust on a shelf at the University of Birmingham, UK, the PhD student did not know he was going to do a surprising discovery. The book, present at the scene for almost a century, actually contains fragments of the Holy Quran, and not just any. According to Radiocarbon, it dates back 1,370 years ago. These texts, written on a sheep and goat skins, are among the earliest written forms of the Islamic holy book in existence.
We were expecting it to be early, but we did not, I think in our wildest dreams, expect that it would roughly correlate to the lifespan of the Prophet Muhammad, which makes it an incredibly early Quranic fragment.
According to tests conducted by Oxford University research team with a probability of more than 95%, these elements have emerged between 568 and 645, the same time of the appearance of the Quran.
The parts of the Quran that are contained in those fragments are very similar indeed to the Quran as we have it today. And so this tends to support the view that the Quran that we now have is more or less very close indeed to the Quran as it was brought together in the early years, obviously.
Researchers said the manuscript consisted of 2 parchment leaves and contained parts of surahs, chapters 18 to 20, and was written with ink in an early form of Arabic script known as Hijazi. The manuscript was part of the university's collection of 3,000 Middle Eastern documents, which was acquired in the 1920s by Alfonso Mingana, a Chaldean priest born near Mosul in Iraq. His trips to acquire the manuscripts were funded by philanthropist Edward Cadbury, whose family made their fortune in chocolate to raise the status of Birmingham as an intellectual center for religious studies.
Who actually wrote it may well have known the Prophet Muhammad. He would have seen him probably. He would maybe have heard him preach. He may have known him personally. And that really is quite a thought to conjure with.
While some manuscripts are major attractions elsewhere in the world, their appeal to visitors is determined more by the status of the person who is understood to have recorded them. The University of Birmingham said it would put the manuscript on public display in October, and Muhammad Afzal, chairman of Birmingham Central Mosque, said he expected it to attract people from all over Britain.
When I saw these pages, I was very much moved, and there were tears of joy and emotions in my eyes. And I am quite sure that even the people from all over UK would come here to Birmingham to just have a glimpse of these pages. People would love this.
Muslim scholars said the discovery, along with similar recent finds and studies in Europe, would help academics piece together the development of the manuscript into its modern form.
Way back to Algeria now, traditional industries exhibitions here in Algeria have granted craftsmen the opportunity to introduce their creative works as well as to highlight the national culture and identity, especially when this traditional industry represents the richness of the Algerian cultural heritage and its genuine authenticity. Hence, Minalas.
Handicraft industry in Algeria isn't just a productive sector. It goes way beyond to centuries of history and civilization. Despite the modernism witnessed in several scopes, the latter preserved its value. These expositions enlightening the capital's nights is biggest proof the handicraft sector is well taken care of, also helping these craftsmen to promote for their creations.
This promotes the authentic history of the province of Gardaia, mostly known for carpet industries. The carpets have historic symbols representing the civilization of the province. We brought silver jewelry from our region. We are here to deliver two messages at the same time. A publicity for our traditional industry and showcasing our country's ancestral culture.
With the same styles and techniques inherited from generation to another, these antiques reflect the different lifestyles of the country's regions, through which citizens get to know the mesmerizing beauty that lies in these traditional products, where expositions play the mediator between craftsmen and citizens, the latter wanting to dive deep into the craft's secrets.
We organized this exhibition in coordination with the municipality of Central Algiers. Several provinces honored us with their presence here in Odan Square. Every 10 days, new craftsmen come in order to grant everyone a chance, where they would bring their region's traditions for the citizens to know.
Thanks to these expositions, handicrafts have become art, history, and fashion in an attempt to cope with trends, to promote for the Algerian culture and identity. There's a wide flow of citizens on the national product, encouraging traditional industries, be it foreigners or locals. They want to know how it's made. They ask about the quality, the fabrics, the region it's made in. Even if the product differs, it carries deep down a consensus in loving the craft and inheriting its techniques, introducing therefore the tight bond between the country and its heritage.
The end of our English news edition. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.